So today we got an article regarding the civil services reform. This article came today dealing with the dead wood. Basically, it is about compulsory retirement given to the two IPS and one IAS officer on the grounds non-performance. Here, non-performance is the criteria. This should be kept in mind. The rest article was all covering the basics of why the reason is this, and I didn't feel that important. So we straight away go to the link topic of this article, that is civil services reform. So context is same. Central government's recent decision to compulsorily retire two IPS officers and one IAS officer on the ground non-performance. So keep the law in this regard. It is also mentioned in the article. The compulsory retirements are in pursuance of the service rules that contemplate a review of an officer after 25 years of service or at an age of 50. After doing so, let's begin from the starting. History of civil services. Macaulay Committee gave India its first civil services in 1854. We have to keep in mind this year. This is important for this committee name, and this year is important for pre-perspective. It recommended that patronage-based system, underline this, patronage-based system of the East India Company should be replaced by a merit-based company through a competitive entry examinations. So here the culture of meritocracy comes in. 1922, first time ICS exam in India. So what was the difference? It became a meritocracy, but the exam was being held in Britain. It was not being held in India. After this year, it will be simultaneously held in India as well as British. So, key objectives of government in creating the All India services are. I have taken this from 10th ARC report. So in the two columns we have objectives and the design features. The objectives and how or which provisions explicitly cater to those objectives. First is preserving national unity and integrity and uniform standards of administration. For this, officers work in center and states, centralized recruitment, meritocracy. National unity will come with the center and states, and uniform standards of administration will come from meritocracy and centralized recruitment. The second is neutrality and objectivity. This word is very important. Neutrality, it should be politically neutral, it should be impartial. This is all we always we hear about civil services, the objectives. Career advancement on merit with due regard to seniority. This provision helps the civil servant to be neutral. If they are sure that their promotion and their allowances are not dependent on political masters, then they are forced to be neutral. Then we have competence and professionalism, protection against arbitrary removal, demotion, punishment, integrity, good remuneration and service conditions, and social status and prestige. Then we'll have a quick review of what civil services reforms, what reforms have been suggested by ARC report. We'll have five heads. First will be capacity building, second would be performance management system, third would be relations between political executive and civil servants, and fourth would be code of ethics, and fifth would be miscellaneous. Building, we have a mandatory training before each promotion, and each officer should be evaluated after each training program. National Institute of Good Governance, which will disseminate best practices. So they also told that key This national institute should not be a new institution. Any pre-existing national state or institution could be upgraded to this institute. So we have 2 points under capacity building. The next point would be performance management system. Here it is said that guidelines need to be formulated for assigning numerical rating. This specifies the objective criteria which is needed for the performance management system. It shouldn't be like good, bad, better. But these words do not have exact definitions. They can be subjective. So here this numerical ratings is calling for objective criteria of performance management. DOPT should formulate detailed guidelines to guide the reporting and review officers for assigning numerical ratings for their subordinates. One more additional point, training modules for implementing performance management system should be designed and introduced for training programs of civil servants. The whole rating program should be implemented through the review officers, and these review officers should be properly trained. So this is the whole training module point, saying that training modules for who are the agencies who are implementing performance management should also be trained. The third point, relation between the political executive and civil servants, simply political neutrality and impartiality. How these should be included in code of ethics for the ministers and code of conduct for public servants. One more point we can have, that there is always we have seen that appointments of various senior bureaucrats in cabinet or governor or any statutory body chairman. For that, we should have a cooling off period. If a person who is seated at higher bureaucracy, he shouldn't be inclined for those benefits if he knows that he can't go for those jobs. So he'll be obviously neutral, politically neutral. For this we can have a cooling off period. Then the code of ethics. It's all self-explanatory: integrity, impartiality, devotion to duty, commitment to public service, uphold rich traditions of civil service. The last we can have others. In that others we have accountability and civil services authority. In accountability we can have we are having two intensive reviews, 14 years and 20 years. Already we discussed in the first, in this editorial, at 25 years of service we have a assessment, but it is calling for two more assessment, 14 and 20 years. Because 25 years a person, we should have at least 2 to 3 assessments, because 25 years is a lot of time. So it is calling for 14 and 20 years reviews. Civil Services Authority, it is recommended that independent body dealing with the transfers. It is always in news that transfers are one of the ways in which political masters try to pressurize the civil servants. So, having an independent body dealing with transfers can check those uh, intentions of the political masters to pressurize the civil servants. Now, the whole editorial we have read civil services reform, we have read history of civil services, and basically we have done a little bit of everything. But how we will use this facts, those were given in the editorial. So, compulsory retirement of two IPS and IAS officer is the government initiative. Straight away we can have this in paper 2, in the section in the syllabus part where it is given civil services reform. In civil services reform we can use it as a government initiative also. And one more thing I want to add, that this news can also be an introduction to a question linked to civil services reform. How? I'll give a model introduction on a question which is linked to civil services reform. It can be any question. So, introduction could be recent government decision to compulsorily retire two IPS and one IAS officer on the grounds of non-performance it has to be has brought the question of civil services reform to center stage. This is around 30 words. We get a question of 200 250 odd words, then we should have at least introduction of 30 to 40 words maximum, and a 20 to 30 word should be the conclusion part. This will make around 70 to 80 words will be used in introduction and conclusion. We will be having around 120 or 140 odd words left for the body part. In that 140 we can have 140 150 words, we can have 5 points, at least at least 5 points with 30 words each point. And those 30 words of each point should have at least 20 odd words for the explanatory part of that point, and 10 words around one sentence for the evidence of that point. Suppose we are saying about take a different example. You are talking about drought. You are saying that drought is affected by this point. Now you have explained those points, the monsoonal reasons or the natural reasons. But any evidence of stating that, or any example you have to state in one sentence about that. So we'll have a look at ethics also, okay, how we can use in ethics. A case study comes in where you are in a similar position where your subordinates are not able to perform their duties, be it any reason, age, or technical difficulties. Here we have taken technical difficulties, two senior officers not able to perform on computers. So what the course of action you can take. So there has in these type of case studies we have to analyze all the options, merits and demerits. So in one of the options, recommend removal of those officers, you can state the legal backing or the provisions of compulsory retirements already there in the service. So today we completed this editorial from the starting, that this whole issue what it started was civil services reform. We have tried basically to cover this in a short lecture, civil services reform. Thank you.